So I'm saying that there's a lot of money that needs a home and they would love to give you that money, but why would any investor talk to you or be interested in what you have to offer?
Where is the problem? Is it the maturity of the investors or the maturity of the founders?
You know, you've got to be playing in that more strategic place than that 4% space. That, you know, just bet on me. I'm throwing away 4% of my capital in a black hole in hopes that Usama is a superstar and I think I'm going to back this guy up, regardless of what idea comes to me. But if you're an investor and if you've been approached by 1,000 people, because everyone thinks everyone's got a gold mine in their backyard, and so come in, give me money, and this is my plan, this is what I want to achieve, and then it fails, and the next one fails, and the next one fails, and one of these guys runs away, and then all of a sudden you're like, no, I'm not going to play this game anymore. In the VC space, it's not about the idea, it's about the person.
What percentage of my decision should be based on that sentiment?
So I don't know. We're all sitting in these machines, right? So I've got a little Basem Abu Dagga sitting in my brain right now and sitting in, you know, فاكر grandizer keep
Yes.
So this is a grandizer. I'm the dog fleet sitting inside.
Yes.
And this guy is actually driving this machine, this whole body, right? And it actually almost has a few buttons, and these are the more secret buttons that, you know, this is emotional buttons as well. So do I get upset about this? Yes, click the upset. Let's get upset. Do I not want to get upset? Let's just let it go. Let's not click that button. ففي a certain mind controlling your mind, if that makes sense. And then I think it's related to, I don't know, it's too philosophical, but الروح as well, where your soul is actually sitting in this machine as well. And what's the relationship between that soul and your body? And that's where that the control of how you think and how you feel starts coming in. So that's I've actually practiced this many times when I'm saying, all right, am I going to let this slide or am I going to get upset about it, مثلا? Or am I going to get really happy about this, or was it just serendipity and I'm just sort of maybe happy because of how this sort of, or how this evolved? But that's kind of the depth of trying to control your emotions, Murat. It's pretty tricky.
What makes you decide between either or? Is it like a certain set of inputs?
You've got to go back and think of what is the premise that you're dealing with. Yani, so it's kind of delaying your emotions a few seconds or a few minutes, not a few minutes, that'll be an art, but like a few seconds to say, how is this going to be perceived, or how do I want this to be perceived? Because again, you're driving this machine, this body. So technically, it's like a mind on top of your mind. And that's the filter that sort of not protects your body, but it actually drives it in utmost efficiency. And I wish I was as efficient as I'd like to be, but it helps me become far more focused and efficient. And that's something that drives me very well.
How do you know that you're in control?
I think that's a very good question, because everything has a purpose and a meaning in my mind, and I gotta really focus on what's the purpose of this, right? Though I'm not a robot, I'm not a machine, although my body is a machine, but I think that as I've trained myself to feel and understand that everything has a purpose and a meaning. So if I'm walking to my gym and I force myself and I control myself to look around me, find the beautiful things that I'm walking towards, and see if I smell a flower, if I look at a tree, I start sort of also playing with this tree is a little different than that one. Look at this plant and look at that plant. Why is this plant and looking like this, and why is that in the other direction, or looking different? And then what's the purpose of each one? But then it makes you sort of feel that everything has a meaning, and that's where you start controlling your walk to the gym. So it's not just a meaningless. Very present, very present.
What does that mean, being present? Like you mentioned that you're aware of your surroundings. You try to. So you mentioned, kind of awareness. You mentioned understanding the meaning, and you mentioned purpose.
Yeah. So being present is a very difficult thing. It's finding that little bug that's eating your plant, and saying, you know what, I love gardening too. Well, gardening, whatever it is.
Clearly.
I feel they, because I've seen situations where my plants are all dead, come back from the summer and they're all dead. And I'm like, oh, what a waste. Even though, there was a lot of effort to try to save them or give them life. But then you also see that you give them love and life, and they really do start flourishing again. And it's that every day they're growing, every day they're finding their path, they're chopping their way in life. And that's something that I also see is a beautiful
Yes.
thing, right? You know, because you're giving life and you're
There is
supporting life.
the very kind of not act, the very sort of action of resurrection.
There's
It's very much
it's
manifest.
fascinating.
Exactly.
And especially when your plant is completely dead,
Yes.
like it's all wood. And the next thing you see, wait a minute,
Sprout.
what is this? A little, tiny little sprout. But then it's finding that little bug on that plant and saying, I wonder what this guy's life is all about.
How's
You know?
that related to present?
So being present is almost appreciating the little things in the little things, if that makes sense. That's pretty deep, pretty little.
Okay. Give me a second. Let that sink in.
Let me try to absorb what
Let me try to absorb it. It's like, what's happening?
You got me in this vicious cycle here.
Hold on.
Bas, yani.
Where are we again? I mean, let's. Okay, so appreciating the little things of the little things. Give me an example of that. So you said the bugs that's eating your plants, but how does that kind of manifest in your daily life?
So I'm like, this bug needs his energy too, right? So this guy's got to eat something. So like, all right, but not my plant, buddy. Ta'al, habibi, you know, come and let me give you something else to feed on, right? So it's that logic
awareness.
that you know. So I don't know. I've compared my presence to a bug. That's what you've done to me. Thank you. But a bug's presence, at least. But it's appreciating the really tiny things.
Appreciating.
Yeah.
So I think if I understood correctly, it starts with the act of being appreciative or kind of gratitude, can I say?
Gratitude's a huge thing. Don't get me started there. That's I've got a sensei in our group that he's all about everything's gratitude. But and we'll get to that maybe. But I think that if you feel, and this is maybe a tiny example. Many years ago, I did my a course in it was a master scuba diver trainer requirement for to qualify as a trainer, and it was all about the anatomy of the body, right? And if you think of what is going on today, right now, when you're breathing, just the simple art of, you know, when the air molecules come through the nostril and they go all the way down your esophagus into your alveoli, and then how the exchange happens, and that's happening without us thinking about it, right? So if you kind of appreciate that, you got to be present with every single little dot that's happening. If it doesn't drive you crazy, of course. But that's when you appreciate little things, tiny things. And that's where it funnels into gratitude, of course.
You mentioned something very profound here, because it's like, I feel like it's a how do I say it? It's on the edge of releasing stress by being stressed. I don't know, with all of these, no?
No, I think stress is just one of those most overrated statements and words
Really?
that people have been abusing for decades.
Okay.
I'm so
okay.
stressed.
Okay.
I'm home, stressed this, stressed that, stressed. And
But isn't that a reality?
It's what you make out of it, right? So what is stress? It's I love this comment. It's as effective, dealing with stress is as effective as chewing bubble gum, right? To solve an algebra equation. So like, how are you, stress is a feeling and an emotion that you are instigating on yourself. You say, okay, I am stressed. Why are you stressed? Are you still breathing? Yes, I am. So why are you stressed? You know? Okay, so then you start taking it from the bare functionality that your body needs, from breathing all the way to, oh yeah, I can't pay my debt at the end of the month. But then, all right, so let me work towards trying to solve it, but not adding that unnecessary layer of stress that actually prohibits you and prevents you from actually trying to solve that problem. Because now it's like, I'm more stressed. Let me go. I love this. Let me go I need to smoke because I'm stressed. I'm like, seriously? How does that really help in any way? I don't know. It's just this habit that I have, right? But that's where your body's kind of, or your mind is not as effective as it should be, because you're resorting to different bits and pieces, which I find, it's people think that that's ridiculous when I talk to them about it. It's like, why are you stressed? Why are you depressed? Those are two things that really bother the hell out of me. I mean, you can do so much more with your life than sit and worry about being stressed or being depressed. And it's the exact counter effects to these. Go out and do stuff that solve these problems and deal with them, as opposed to just whining and, or just whining about it and crying about it.
Complaining about it. You know, the thing is, and I completely echo what you're saying. I've been, how do I say it? Accused of being kind of ruthless, rude, sort of disregarding feelings. And as a researcher myself, who goes into understanding, especially the interpretation of events that people feel around them, and how real is that? You come to a point where these are real. I mean, I'm not a reductionist by sort of kind of philosophical worldview, meaning I don't reduce anything to nothing. Everything, if it exists, if I can see it, even if it's manufactured, it's there. It's just a matter of how do we handle it. And my worldview is, if I want to kind of really make an impact on the world and actually change people's lives, whether it's economically, professionally, personally, or otherwise, there's an acknowledgement of certain, I would say, feelings, no matter how irrational they are, and then how real they are, especially if I don't feel them, because I'm exactly in the same boat as you are. I look at someone, I can see someone who is, let's say, in the midst of their chaos, like in the midst of their turmoil. Literally, they have their kind of, the police is knocking on their door because they have a couple of bounced checks and this and that. And I look at them as like, pick your weight up and just go to the gym, do something about it. Don't just
But that's exactly where it starts, right? It starts with motion. Every single morning when I wake up, I'm like, I'm not bouncing to go to the gym, but I am telling myself, again, the mind controlling the body, Habibi, we're not going to go to the gym. Just go wear your trainers. Habibi, we're not going to go out. We're not going to exercise. Just leave the house. And the minute that those steps start walking towards something positive, the whole demeanor, everything about you changes.
Nice.
And that's when the positive energy kicks in. And that's when the endorphins kick in. And that's when you come back and you're like, I feel like $1 million. And my kids are like, yeah, you feel like $1 million, Dad. We understand, I'm like, yalla, go do it yourself. Get out there. And it starts, the vibes start, trickling through everywhere.
And exactly.
And it's the people you meet. And then, fortunately, I'm in an entrepreneurial space, which is fascinating because you meet people that are brilliant. They want to solve world problems. They wake up every day. The first thing they do is they kick themselves up, and get out there to say, oh my days, what have I done to my life? But I have to get out there and do it.
What have I signed myself into?
Exactly. And then that sort of, that energy is also contagious, right? And it makes people feel that they are...
Basem, I'll tell you what, and I come, when I do any kind of research, I kind of try to ask people who are new to whatever it is that they're coming into. So for example, if I'm doing a corporate culture sort of research to an organization, I kind of try to get as much information as possible from the new joiners, because those people are like, when you walk into the homes, like, I like the smell of Maqluba, right?
Maqluba, of course, my favorite.
And then my wife is like, oh really? It smells like, you don't smell it because she's in it. The fish doesn't know it's in the water. So I just dabbled into entrepreneurship. Literally, I was a corporate employee all my life until literally the past 2-3 years, and
you saw the light.
I'll tell you what, light is understatement. I got blinded by kind of, I can't see.
And it blinds you.
It blinds you. I'll tell you that much. I mean, anyway, so it's not a badge of honor, but the point is, it's as hard as it can get, and it's as risky and scary as it can get, but it kind of as reviving as it can get.
It is.
But the point that I want to touch on is exactly what you mentioned now, is I consider myself very unlucky at the same time. Lucky because I found my path and I was able to kind of take the risk and jump. But unlucky because, quote unquote, I'm late. I know.
No, it's okay.
It's never too late, but it's a pragmatic, a pragmatic realist sort of
It's the right
view.
time, at least sometimes. Some people never get that time, but definitely.
I'll tell you why I'm unlucky, because it's different when I see someone who's been in that domain for the past 15 years, started with no family, with kind of zayt or za'atar, just to kind of get by. He doesn't mind if he has a couple of kind of dinars or dirhams or whatever in his pocket. And you're at our age where you have, tons of responsibility of God knows how much that you need to care for. It's not just yourself, right? That's one. But the other thing is your tribe. It takes time to build that tribe. I mean, imagine we didn't know each other. From before, and now we're speaking to each other literally. Just for everybody to know, this is the first time that I meet Basem.
And it's such it's such an energetic,
it's crazy,
and lovely,
right?
lovely discussion.
And that's a hard, concrete evidence to how entrepreneurs feel when they meet each other, which is exactly an evidence to what you said. I remember how it was in employees. You sit with your tie and suit.
There's no life.
Nothing.
I've honestly.
No disrespect, obviously, right?
I almost want to disrespect some people by saying, "Listen, you guys are throwing your lives away. If you're not loving every minute forget about every minute. But if you're not passionate, forget about passion even. If you're not appreciating every minute that you are spending within that corporation, get the hell out. Stop wasting your life.
And everyone else's.
And again, it's not just get the hell out and just go out and do nothing aimlessly and say, all right, I'm out of a corporation. What do I do? Let's start playing tennis for the rest of our lives. Get out there and figure out a plan first. Create a strategy. I think strategy is what a lot of people sort of think that they know what it is, but they don't go to the minute details of, all right, how am I disrupting? How am I going to make a difference? What's the change that I'm actually going to?
And what capacity do I need to build to be able to do it?
Exactly. How am I prepared? What are the ingredients that I have? All right, I'm going to be a sailor. I don't even know how to, I hate water, right? I get nauseous on, how do you want to do this? So you got to really go through that journey very carefully before you decide on just jumping out of a corporate. But the reason why you jump out of a corporate is not just because you are not being fulfilled or not being able to do something with your valuable time. It is actually because you are misusing your minutes and seconds on this planet. And the amount of people that you talk to today that are in a corporation and they are sick and tired of their bosses, their time, working hours, their fulfillment, self-fulfillment is just sickening, really. And it just bothers me to the level that
it rubs on you, right?
It does. I mean, get out of there, dude. Get a life, man. Don't throw your precious energy and time away. One of my friends, and I'm sure once he listens to this, he'll know who he is. He spends every day whining about his job. And I'm like, just get out of this corporate rat race. He's like, I can't. I'm like, dude, you're incredibly brilliant. You're very smart. You're very talented. You're an entrepreneur by nature. You've got so much going for you. You can't do that leap of faith, because you're just too concerned with what's going to happen at the end of the month. And it's not a rosy picture. It's not, and you know what it's like. You don't jump out, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. Come on, throw your checks at me, everybody. Allah,
my scars are still, and my wounds are still, kind of.
I'm in a lot of pain still. But if you think of, again, if you're present with what are you achieving, why are you doing this, and why are you, and you're still plugging away, working hard at it. You got to work hard. You don't spend all your time like what people think. If they wake up later because, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, I can do that.
I have a couple of bean bags, and then you know what? I'll just play all day. It doesn't work that way.
Let's get those coffee rolling every day, hours. But it is, you really do end up finding your purpose, and you go after it. And that's what really fulfills. And if you're so passionate about it, you've got the right ingredients, you've given it some thought before, you have a bit of a strategy and a plan, it does pay off in some way, one way or another, right? And it doesn't have to be financial.
It does. However, I need to kind of, preface this thought to everyone who's thinking about it, that it depends on not just a myriad or sort of plethora or kind of complex set of variables that you need to make sure you're aware of. For instance, we're living in the UAE now. The UAE, we're all expats in the UAE. It's not our country. I can't just decide tomorrow that I'll go to my mom's basement and just kind of crash there until things work out.
But if you do,
no, but it doesn't exist in the UAE.
But if you do, whenever you've got your back at the wall and you're like, okay, I got to figure it out. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to say, all right,
no,
I'll press this button, I'll make money. But that's when you say, I got to really do something about it. I got to get up there the next day and work my ass off. And sometimes it's not doing the same thing over and over again.
Absolutely,
so you're not going to come back to the same drawing board and say, oh, wallah, yalla, let me continue. I'm selling real estate. Let me go back and sell more real estate. No, you really need to think about this and say, how can I do something remarkably different? And that's when you start saying, all right, this is not working. It didn't work until today. So that's why I'm in the basement or looking for that basement.
But the point is, it doesn't exist in the UAE. So you have to, whatever you have to go, you'll go back. And there, look, one of the things that I'm facing now with entrepreneurs, I mean, just kind of put a bit of a reality check on the go to the gym, eat healthy, be grateful. I mean, I know people that literally every morning, 4:30, they're coming from Ajman just to go to their entrepreneurship or whatever it is that they have to do in, let's say, Jabal Ali or otherwise. Literally from 4:30 to arrive at 8:30. And I know that lots of people are in this camp, and they've been doing it forever. I know people that pivoted probably 10 times or more times than they would want to admit, right? And there's this element of ecosystem that kind of makes you not only feel that you're swimming against the tide, but it actually drowns you, because at the end of the day, reality is reality. And I'll tell you a small example. I mean, I'm now dabbling with national initiatives, working with ministers and presidents and heads of states to see how we can work on an ecosystem that is far more than just pitch competitions and hackathons, right?
Okay.
So things that are related to, we are drowning the best of the best of the best because it's far bigger than the individual or the company.
Very true.
Right? So we're talking about fragmentation. We're talking about visa status. We're talking about access to capital. We're talking about
pilots, POCs,
we're talking about, I'll tell you what, we're talking about as simple as payment plan. I mean, accounts payable and payment plans. I mean,
setting up a bank account.
I'll tell you what, 90 days payable. Really? You're a large organization. Why? Why 90 days? I mean, think about it. This 90 days actually can kill the most and brightest startup you can ever think of, right? And I had many interviews with heads of procurements in organizations, large and small, in the MENA region. And most of them are telling me, Usama, I wish I can do something about it, but it's bigger than even me. I said, okay, look at this headline from this, I don't know, like VVIP or whatever. And like, he said, it is what it is. So what I'm trying to say is,
it's bigger than us sometimes. It's a lot bigger.
It's much, much bigger. You see people that are getting drowned with paperwork. And I'll tell you what, okay, let's forget about everything else. Let's only talk about expenses versus revenue. Cash, they call it cash is king, right? Yeah. I see you're smiling because in the entrepreneurship, it's all about cash. Yeah. Because guess what? Your expenses will not wait, but your payments will always be, the guy is on leave, know.
So there's got to be a strategy behind this again. So you don't jump into the deep end hoping that it's all going to work. And, khalas, now I've got my freedom and I've got this and I've got 2 months worth. And my first paycheck 15 years ago came 11 months later. And I was expecting, hey, I've been working towards my exit plan for 6 months and I'm all ready. I've got my brand, I've got my company, got my partnerships, got everything in place. I've already got some potential customers. And then 11 months later, I get my first check. I'm like, holy crap, what happened there? My plan completely out of the window.
Sucked dry.
and that's where entrepreneurship really slaps you in the face. You think that, hey, I mean, life is not about going to school and getting education, sitting in a corporate and waiting for that sort of life lesson. You don't learn much.
The slap on the face,
The slap on the face comes when you really do that leap of faith. And then from there, so it's knowing your ingredients, getting those right, understanding what they are. If you're not fully prepared, you don't just jump into the deep end. You start preparing yourself better. Say, all right, before I become an entrepreneur, let me make sure I've got all my research. I don't have an extra hour. I'm driving 2 hours from Ajman or whatever it is. Let me go revisit what are the circumstances. And again, I'm assuming that the intention is there, the drive is there, the willingness is there, but there's no resources or there's no time or there's whatever.
Yes, exactly.
So now you start working around these resources until you find the ingredients. If you don't find the ingredients and you don't have something that's meaningful, you don't have a serious solution that you're bringing to humanity, you're like, yalla, let me become an entrepreneur. You're jumping into the swamps.
Exactly, which sucks you. Exactly. So here are two, I think in my world, in my thinking, and because we're working with lots of whether investors, CEOs, founders, or even entrepreneurs and kind of people who are starting things. There are two main obstacles that I'm still wrapping my head around. One is capital. Two is network. And let me kind of give meaning to those two. By network, I mean not your people, not even your people. We're talking about epidemics there. We're talking about ghosting. We're talking about, and we briefly talked about this. We're talking about literally people just going into the dark. And if I get a dirham for every time someone apologizes for quote unquote radio silence, how many times did you hear this? I apologize for the radio silence. What does that mean, even radio silence? Are we in World War II? But anyway, so I apologize for the radio silence. Oh, I'm sorry, I was doing this, I was doing that. And I'm like in my mind, buddy, I mean, I'm sure you stopped at a traffic light and looked at your phone. I'm sure you were at an elevator and looked at your phone. I'm sure. I mean, let's cut the BS. Exactly. So this is one. So, and that's an epidemic, I call it, right? Yeah. The second is access.
But it's an epidemic, and there's foundations behind this. So because I think, and this is maybe trying to be a bit. Let me preface this by saying we're extremely privileged, and I have to make sure that people understand that I'm lucky, alhamdulillah. Very appreciative of what I've got. But I also think that it's about the person and what they're presenting, what they're proposing. So I'd get tons of LinkedIn requests to invest or to do this or to support or whatever. And I'm interested and I'm coming in abroad, from Germany or from the UK or from whatever. And I want to set up and I want to tie up with you, whatever, see if I can. And a lot of these get sidelined because of the proposition. It's not even something that's even attractive. There's not been enough research that's done. It's not applicable. It doesn't attract my attention. I do read these when I can. And when I do read them, there's some that jump at me and saying, I want to talk to this guy for sure, or this person, And again, so it's not just ghosting for the sake of ghosting. You're getting those conventional, hello, and I'm sorry guys, but hello, I've went through your website and I think you've done a remarkable job and I really want to help you do some telemarketing or design or tech or whatever.
That's okay. So I love you that you're mentioning about this, because a lot of I'm guilty of not looking at my LinkedIn messages for the longest period, but then, every few months or every few weeks, I just go and scan through these. And all of these sort of, will get you leads, will get you, I don't know what, marketing. I just skim through them and I don't respond to them. So that's that. I think what I'm trying to say is someone or now, again, I'm in the same boat as you are. I'm very lucky and privileged, obviously, because probably of our age, maybe we're a bit senior, maybe
our
because our network, who we know, we've achieved, and that's fine, So I think
not for our looks for sure.
Well, I mean, I can't talk about you because you're a good-looking person.
No, I'm saying not for my looks for sure. Maybe other privileges.
But what I'm trying to say is, it's that sort of, it's much more nuanced. Let's put it that way. It's not black and white, right? So it's not either you respond everything to every single Tom, Dick and Harry that kind of sends you a message on, Snapchat or whatever, or respond to everyone. It's not that. So let's be very nuanced and kind of very clear about that. I think what I'm trying to say is when you initiate discussions with someone, when you're talking to someone, whether business development, whether a network of some sort, you've exchanged business cards, you've exchanged connections, that you've spoken to them, right? And then down the line, you're just wanting to kind of want to speak to someone. It's like, oh yeah, you know what? I'm interested in this or that. Can be professionally or personally, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But then radio silent. And again, we're lucky because it doesn't happen to us, but I know because a lot of people kind of, especially from my kind of profile and people who I meet and this and that, I get messages from people I never heard of. It's like, Usama, can you please get me in touch with this guy? I'm like, did you try?
Yeah. So Usama, I think the magic behind this is,
by the way, the phone is ringing. I'm gonna ghost that.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good idea. Right. That's well deserved. Right. Wrong timing. You didn't do your research well enough. This is when
I do my part anyway.
No, so out of when you have to kiss a lot of frogs and not 100. Now maybe in this day and age 1,000 or even more because of technology being so accessible, so everyone can really reach out to everybody. So it's not a matter of kissing these frogs. It's a matter of finding that prince. So completely flip it over. So you're not really just trying to kiss everybody out there. It's like you're really finding that one person that's going to add value. The people that ghost you, mabda'iyan, or most of the time, are not your target audience. They're not people that are interested in this proposition. They're not actively seeking something of what you have to offer, right? So I think that's where the first problem lies. We'll go and let's talk to investors. Why would any investor talk to you or be interested in what you have to offer?
True.
But tell me that you're solving this specific problem for, tell Basem that I've found the solution that can give that bug a good life outside my plant. And then Basem will say, hey, let's talk right now. Like, I'm going to jump at it, right? I don't want to kill the bug, but I know that I appreciate that it's got a future that needs to family and stuff that needs to persevere. So let's find a solution that works as a win-win for everybody. Now that's the type of conversation that you want to have. So meaning that, by randomly seeking all these potential investors, that's not going to happen.
No.
Randomly seeking people that you think that will add value to your life.
Just a point here. The other day I was in Doers, there was an entrepreneurship event in DSO and, there's an exhibition and you kind of all of these startups. So I had this, I'm commissioning a research now on accessibility and capital and all all of that. You like the coffee,
it's addictive, right? Man. It's starting to work, guys.
It's starting to work, right? You can see the energy. So I was speaking to a guy and, a founder there. And I was asking him about accessibility and all of that, because this is kind of top of mind for me, and I'm doing my research on it, academic, and I'm trying to publish a paper on that. But anyway, and he said, I tried the other day, I sent, I don't know, like 1,000 or 5,000 messages to 5,000 investors because, I was like, wait. 5,000? Where did you find 5,000 investors in your niche?
What list did you get? Was it a real estate list or something?
Whatever. I mean, the idea is, where did you find the time? Because to me, if you're sending more than 30 a day, that means it's blasting. 30 to 50 a day, it's blasting. And you can't do that, right? Out of respect. So there is also, I mean, just to kind of double down on your kind of sentiment, there is a sense of entitlement on the other side, the river or the table, because people expect that, the other day I was speaking to, one of my clients, and it's like, oh no, I know this guy. I sent him a LinkedIn message a year ago and he never responded. I'm like, yeah. And then what happened? Like, it's like, no, I just sent him the message.
So that's it.
Like, that's it? And you feel entitled enough to have him kind of whatever respond. So there is that dynamic. But I think what I'm trying to say is, it's all a matter of, I mean, this is how I see myself and I reflect on myself. The more I try to achieve something and I have bigger capacity, which obviously because we're aware, conscious, sort of in our constant development, we build capacities that allows us to do things that people behind us, I feel maybe an obligation is a big of a word, but I feel a sense of responsibility to give back by at least responding because of where I am today, right? If I'm a nobody, which I'm still I'm just clear.
We're all nobodies somewhere.
But the point is, if I'm in a position of absolutely no way that I'll be able to help anyone, let alone help myself, then maybe that's a different story. But I know that I'm going somewhere. I know that I'm building something. And if I'm true to myself, I would at least put aside some time to at least attend to as many and when I say as many, I mean volumes and volumes of people, at least to see. Now, it's exactly the same way. When I hear Gary Vee who says, you know what, how many did you send? And, you sent only to 30, you have to send to 3,000, whatever. I mean, you know how he's crazy about this stuff. I say this the other way around is the same. It's how many did you try to approach? How many did you respond to as well? Yeah. And if we meet in the middle, then it stops becoming an epidemic.
So the ecosystem starts thriving.
Yes.
So let me give you a few thoughts on that. So the first thought is, so entrepreneurs are a little different, and I know this doesn't apply to everybody, especially if you're building SaaS or tech-enabled platforms that really have a major sort of drive for volume of business, right? So I feel that the entrepreneur is a reflection in his day job, whatever that is. It's all his life, effectively, with his values and his personality, right? So the first thing that I always encourage people to think about, and myself first, is that go to the circles and that do add value to myself, that I'm passionate about. So if I'm a foodie, I'm in all these restaurants trying to eat the food and meeting these people and whatever. If I'm in the hiking and diving space, then that's where I'm meeting my circles. That's my tribe. That's the people that I'm thriving, rubbing shoulders with. And that's usually the source of where the problem that I'm trying to solve for is. I'm in that space. I'm passionate about it. Passion is a very strong word, right? If people can abuse this, say I'm so passionate about sailing, but whatever, it's never going to make me money. So you can continue to be passionate about it, but never make money. Good luck. So again, it's understanding that where your focus areas are, your values are, and that's the circles of people that you're meeting, and those are usually your source of capital, source of ideas, source
your
of
economic contribution and sort of circular.
Yeah. So you're not reaching out to an investor out in I don't know, in Malaysia saying, hey, I've got this great idea in Dubai. Listen, I'm solving for the problem for the edtech, whatever. So that's on the first front that I feel that you really need to focus about your current existing ecosystem, and that's where it grows. And you rub shoulders with the people that you're involved with. So you don't just attend a conference about investing and hoping that the investors are sitting there very interested.
On you and just
no, but even interested in your solution to recycle, plant-based whatever, right? So I would go to a focused plant recycling sort of conference or event and find the people there that sort of understand this and appreciate it more so than investors are going to say, hey, I think I understand this, looks good, I don't know where you're from, but here's a check, right? So that's on one front. It's rubbing shoulders with the ecosystem that appreciates you. The second thing, it's also a maybe more focused reflection of it. So if I go a little bit professionally, I don't know where this is going professionally or personally, but we're just having random conversation.
Right.
This guy, he's got, amazing ability to inspire, it's all muddled now, right?
It's all muddled.
Wait till you get to the last part of this discussion. So, so if you go onto the professional level, and it's we've developed and we felt that there was a need to build an ecosystem around education and edtech, and that's where the knowledge, the learning was not from us. It's not from the content. It's from getting like-minded people onto the platform and hearing their challenges and learning from each other. And then all of a sudden you feel that that's this, again, it's going back to your tribe, but this is a more focused approach. So more focused meaning that to solve your previous, or to think about solutions for your previous conversation, you don't just go out and have an accelerator that goes across the board. You focus on an accelerator in a specific space. That's when people are really putting their minds together to solve that space's challenges. So as a venture studio or as a venture or as an accelerator, whatever it is, I feel that when you're focused in a specific area, that you have a much better chance of success than just going randomly. And that might address some of the thoughts that you have.
So I think to your point, and I think we see eye to eye on this, is you have to be creative, and please don't use agents and AI and APIs to Apollo or Rocket Reach or whatever platform that kind of get. It's crazy how people just kind of, you can see that all of them are using the same AI prompt that was, I don't know, announced by some YouTuber or some, kind of Instagrammer, and everybody's just talking the same thing, and then they complain nobody's responding to them. So you have to be creative. So that's the networking part. And obviously you have to build some sort of an authority to be, how do I say it, worthy of people's time, because it's the most expensive thing. I mean, the sense of entitlement and the kind of arrogance to kind of think that, I sent a message, they don't respond, and then they complain about it. Now,
who are you?
Again,
why should I?
exactly. Now, mind you, it's both ways, right? We just said that, come on, buddy, you're in the elevator, just respond. I mean, come on, but that being said, it's much far more nuanced than it is black and white.
And I'm sure you appreciate this, that people are not investing in the ideas, they're investing in the people.
True.
So if I'm looking at a founder and I think this guy is really sloppy, or he's not coordinated, or he doesn't have the depth, or he doesn't this, I'm not going to give him my money, regardless of how brilliant his idea is. And that's probably the biggest failure rate of entrepreneurs in our region, is because these brilliant ideas are getting squashed by entrepreneurs that have no grit. And one guy was telling me, listen, this is amazing. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. He's been hounding me for 3-4 months. And then month number 5, he's like, listen, if you have any openings around you, or someone, I'm looking for a job. I'm like, what? You were just soliciting money just last month, and now you want me to get you a job? I'm so glad I didn't invest in this guy, right? Because he just jumped off the boat.
Yeah, the first.
Although he had this conviction. So unfortunately, I say it's that personalities that are not able to drive their businesses. They come to the first hiccup and they're like, I can't solve this problem. The investors are not answering. There's no capital out there. Let me jump off.
Now we go back to the original kind of premise of, obviously there's infinite number of circumstances and variables that obviously it's very difficult to judge. But I have a judgment, and this is how I judge people, right?
I'm very judgmental. My kids tell me that all the time. Like, Baba, there's experience behind this judgment.
Oh my God, that makes the two of us. Okay, that's why we hit it off. Okay, so here's what I do, and it literally takes 3 seconds. Ready for it?
Yalla, shoot.
How you look?
There's a lot of that.
If you're not
sadly,
fit,
yes.
If you come and you're not fit,
that's our language, Bas. A lot of people, they prefer those.
I'll tell you, I don't care.
I'm going to back a lot of this.
Don't worry, we can cut this to heart content. But my point is, I mean, I'll tell you what, people say, I don't have time. Shh. There's nothing called time. Yeah. I literally, I've canceled my gym subscription 3 years ago when I started this venture. And since then, I've been doing at least 100 or 200 push-ups every day, at least 100 or 200 squats every day. I've built my own pull-up and ring and kind of things here. So I have my own pull-ups. I have my whatever. I mean, you can carry a rock.
Yeah, you create time.
You
find time and you create
and you don't
it.
have to have this kind of, who said that you need to have 1 hour to the gym? I literally do, like, if I'm doing something, and sometimes I do, let's say nowadays, I love it when I do a big fat prompt that, half an hour I'm just building, or 45 minutes, I'm just building the prompt, and I press enter, which takes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes if it's deep research or otherwise, or a pro. I go at it. That time is like, now is the time where I do my push-ups, I do my kind of whatever I have to do. But the point is, by the end of the day, from the morning till the evening, I end up doing all my workouts but scattered around the day. And again, the idea is people have the evidence of discipline by looks. So 2 things for me, or 3 things for me. And you spoke about one, which is whether you're a smoker or not.
Yes.
Sorry for every smoker, but I judge.
Sorry. Why
I judge.
the hell are you smoking?
Sorry, I'm not sorry, right?
Yeah.
So this is one. Second, the way you look. If you come overweight, or I don't want you to be kind of an Olympic player.
Yeah, you're not taking care of yourself.
You're not. I mean, there's a clear indication that you're not taking, especially if you're an older dude. I mean, younger, fine, but if you're an older dude, let's say in your second, half of your 40s, early 50s, and beyond. No excuses at all.
Caveat, assuming it's not diseases or something that your knees or something. But
right?
you still need to have thought about this early on in your life.
Yeah, I mean,
to make sure
obviously.
The days come.
Exactly. Yeah. And the third thing is financial discipline. If you're drowned in debt, if you have a couple of credit cards who are maxed out, again, caveat that you don't have kind of medical issues, schooling issues, whatever.
You're saying success breeds success. My favorite stories are those individuals that were exactly in that description that you talked about. Smokers, losers,
overweight people.
Obese.
Overweight, fat people.
And then aimless. And then you wake these guys up and you find the monster inside them. And now that sounds a very cliche, but you wake, you raise them from their deaths, from their misery. And then you're like, listen, get out there and go do it. And that's the spirit that really inspires me more so than success breeding success.
I'll tell
if
you
you make your first million, it's so easy to make the rest. If you've got your friends, you can do so much more. But if you don't, and you get out and raise and succeed in that.
That's hats off, right? So to me, the amount of respect that I actually, it just gushes into me when I see someone I haven't seen for the past few years, and then all of a sudden he walks in and he is ripped or she is ripped. The amount of respect, I actually geek out on them. I was like, okay, tell me about it. What happened? And they're a triathlete. They do all these things. They hike. And now they're successful. They found their mojo. I'll tell you what, this is where it becomes, I don't care where they are in their life. I don't care what happens to them.
Yeah.
But that's it. Because and again, this is to me, the judgment of discipline, because it starts there. Now, everything else kind of secondaries, but that's number one. But then I go to number 2, which is access to capital, right? So we talked about network, we talked about friends, we talked about discipline, we talked about building capacity, we talked about waiting and not being broadcasting and just kind of now access to capital. And the problem with that is now it hits reality, right? Because at the end of the day, you have all of those kind of bills that you have to pay, all these mouths that you have to feed, and those don't wait.
Yes. So there's 2 separate parts. So there's the part where you're seeking capital for the success of your business or your startup, and that is kissing these frogs and finding them and creating that relationship. There's that part where you got to pay your debts and pay your obligations and expenses. And if you want to tie them in, it's planning for your entrepreneurship journey. You got to make sure that you can at least.
That plans go south all the time.
Yeah, but you're ready.
I mean, I can hear a couple of entrepreneurs that are literally hiding from all of those debtors.
I hear you. And for that, it's also, again, with your back against the wall, that inspires you to do something different or whatever, or even get a job or get into consulting or whatever it is. But you got to keep pivoting. You got to keep moving. If you want to go about the access to capital bit, I think it's important that you're in the same circles of people that appreciate your solution or your project or your product. And if you're there, and if they're not buying it, then what are you trying to do? Then I'll immediately pivot to something else.
Right.
So you can't continue to say, listen, I'm building the startup.
But
I'm
you
solving
think
this problem.
so it's not a problem of access to capital. And I'll tell you why I say this, just very briefly. A friend of mine said, you know what, Usama, I went to Silicon Valley, I went to this investor, I raised money from him, I don't know, like a couple of $100,000. I lost them all. I went back to the same guy. I told him, hey, I lost them all. Can you give me another? He actually got some more.
Yeah.
And it didn't, like, to him, the concept of, you just mentioned it now, like you're investing in the founder, that was actually materialized. It's not just kind of talk, right? He said, I came here, now he's actually packing back to go back because of that.
So here's a thought for your discussion that you had with the affluent people that were talking about solving the entrepreneurial ecosystem challenges in the region. If they start imposing taxation on capital that's not been invested in the space, then that's where you start getting the
there's an incentive system behind.
Exactly. That's where it starts. People will throw money at the entrepreneurs in hopes that they can really revive or create something meaningful. And then that allows this whole mindset to change, because people are like, oh, why am I going to give you money? No way. You know what? I'll hire you. Come and do this for me. And then I'll fire you and get someone else to do the job. But I won't give you this blank check. And sadly, because you get a lot of bootleggers or people jumping, what is it? A consultant that decided, sorry, consultants, I was one and probably still am. A consultant that decided, hey, listen, I've got a great idea. I've solved this problem. This is what I want to do. And let me try it out and see if it works. If it doesn't, I'll do something else. So, and then they will probably find some other solution and leave the investors.
But isn't that funny? That you're happy to pay a couple of million dirhams or dollars for a consultant, let's say one of the big 4s or 5s or whatever, get it down the drain, a couple of slides that are ChatGPT, but not actually spend a fraction of that on an entrepreneur?
No, we were in this discussion.
Because it's not about money.
No. We were in this discussion with a very wealthy, person, and he came in driving his really, really fancy car, extremely ridiculously fancy. And he's like, and I just sold my Lamborghini, and then I just bought this because, the color, something that's ridiculous.
Yes.
And then he comes and he says, no, I'm not going to give you guys 250,000 dirhams, for this. Why, And I'm like, oh, exactly. Why? You're the worst person that we shouldn't have even been here, right?
I'm lucky that you've exposed yourself. But when those people are a dime a dozen, then, I'll tell you.
But that's the culture. That's people here. I'll acquire a very expensive toy, but I won't give you with your brilliance and you're putting your life on
I'll tell you, it's not give you, it's an investment. The other day I was also talking to one of those kind of guys that actually spent 30,000 dirhams on a night, right? So in one of those kind of night outs and whatever. And I'm like, okay, so I have a kind of seed, not a client, but kind of hustler that he reached out to me, and I'm kind of trying to help him. Obviously, those people you don't take money from because you don't want to add to their misery. But so you access your network, and I tell him, hey, you know what, this guy, he just needs a couple of kind of 10,000, 20,000 dirhams. He wants to buy this machine. He's a brilliant guy. He's very young, energetic. He knows, LLM and all of that stuff. And the due diligence that the guy did is like, it's like an M&A deal for, it's a BlackRock level.
Where do you buy your socks from?
And I'm like, bro, give me a break. You can't, you come with you. But I think we see eye to eye to this. And that's my problem with capital here. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said there's no incentive at the highest levels to push people to kind of actually do it.
And then there's been a lot of failures too that people learn. So
But that's it. That's innovation, right? That's entrepreneurship. It's actually the power curve that allows you to fail, because definitely, statistic numbers are numbers, right? When the power curve, there's a reason why Silicon Valley is Silicon Valley. There's a reason why.
Yeah, but if you're an investor and if you've been approached by 1,000 people, because everyone thinks this is everyone's got a gold mine in their backyard. And so come in, give me money. And this is my plan. This is what I want to achieve. And then it fails, and the next one fails, and the next one fails, and one of these guys runs away, and whatever. Then all of a sudden you're like, no, I'm not going to play this game anymore. It's not working for me.
Okay,
let me put this in real estate. Let me watch it do, I don't want to deal with anybody, none of you guys, and none of your excuses. I'm sorry that, COVID hit, and then we're working. So it's as simple as that. So why would, again, it's the type of investor that you're approaching, it's like, he's got all these alternatives. Why am I going to come and give you money?
Yeah.
And then the second thing is that they've been through so much, and they've seen one idea. If you were talking about the venture building or the VC space that I'm in, we've seen so many similar ideas, and everyone's like, this is a gold mine. Nobody has thought of it. No competition, no competitors out there.
It's $1 billion company, right?
Seriously,
It's a unicorn.
no competitors out there. Have you even looked beyond your neighborhood to see how many people are doing the exact same thing? How many people have failed at it? Why would you be successful? Coming with a few, not even fancy slides. So again, there's a journey for everybody. There's a lot of journeys.
So here's a question. And we're talking specifically about our region. When I say our region, I mean the MENA region. Specifically, let's say GCC, Jordan, but also the Levant and Egypt and
MENA PT.
Yeah, exactly. What's PT?
Pakistan and Turkey.
Oh yeah, exactly. So that's how it is.
Those are the personal trainers, PTs.
PT, exactly. I was like, oh, okay. But anyway, so when you look at it, when you zoom out and look at the world, right, and look at Europe, United States, Australia, China, Far East.
Homogeneous markets.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you look at our region. Where is the problem? Is it the maturity of the investors or the maturity of the founders?
It's not even. It's the... That's another chapter we need to talk into. Khaliya hadi number 4 maybe, if we ever get to that far. So we're so fragmented as markets. The first question I'd ask any founder is like, why did you decide that, Motor City is going to be the center of your universe for your startup, right? And then he's like, because I'm here, because of this, because of that. There's not enough clout. There's not enough buying customers. You're not solving enough problems. The financials don't look attractive enough to target this specific space. So let's think of a real market. Let's address the market. And it's because we have such a, we're all in our magical glass cages. And to jump from one glass cage into another, you actually have to reinvent yourself. You got to break out of this cage and go out to, or glass cage, and go out to the next market and start all over again. It's not as simple as click the button and then you're in this massive economy. So solving for this is I've given this a lot of thought. So one is you can't build a local product. It's got to be global. It's not going to be global. You got to build a regional product. So by building a regional product, think of how is this solution that I'm doing here going to affect the people in Morocco, and how are they going to buy it? And why would they buy it, right? Mind you, one of the key elements of a successful startup is to focus on a specific target audience. But then you have to have the journey laid out so that you know that you are actually eventually going to expand into these markets, so you understand the needs and start sort of addressing for that. That's on one front. So it's got to go beyond borders. And the second part is thinking beyond these borders. So these borders are unfortunately a very big hindrance for many entrepreneurs. I'll make sure that it's entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So, okay. Have you heard of Lovable?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So you heard the recent news that they were, I think, valued at, ridiculous amounts and so on and so forth. And they're also from a tiny country. They're sort of plagued with this, mostly the same issues that were, and they made it. WhatsApp is the same thing. I think it's from Estonia or something like that. So it's like crazy Eastern Europe sort of. I've heard
crazy brilliance is what needs to be added to that. Yes.
So I think what I want to say is those people, I'm sure, came out of dozens and dozens of similar people who didn't make it. But then when you hear to their story, you look at the ecosystem and then you look at why they were able to do it. So I'm starting to kind of doubt the fragmentation and the cross-border issue, which is real. It's real. It's exactly like the feelings part. It's real. I mean, but it's now being used more by entrepreneurs as, I wouldn't say excuse, because it's real. I know it's real. I mean, for God's sakes, the other day, one of my clients, he was like, Usama, imagine their license is in Dubai. They wanted to make business in Abu Dhabi. And the entity in Abu Dhabi said you have to have a license in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I know. And the person is not from this part of the world. So he was like, really? But that's why. Anyway, that's a different story. So you have even microcosms within the microcosm. So that's a different story. But it depends on what you're doing, and it depends on how. And I love your kind of thought process. Is like, account for that. Plan, strategically understand where you're heading. If it's shallow, rough water, then build your boat against it. You can't go with an inflatable sort of boat. You have to have a steel boat of some sort that can have all of this kind of icebreakers and whatever. If you're not up to it, then you're not up to it.
So let's play this game.
Right.
All right.
I like games.
You're a rhinoceros.
Right.
And our friend is a unicorn. And then there's an elephant. And then there's a camel.
Okay.
All right. So all four of us are sitting in a small little village. Call it the UAE, call it Saudi, call it whatever you want. And we're fighting against each other, right? And everyone's coming from a different ecosystem. The unicorn's flying, and they're sailing and they're looking at everything on the fly, in the universe, and they can see they've got wings. The elephant is in the desert as well, and it's in the local desert. There's no water. And you've got your rhinoceros, all vicious and all strong, and we're having a really big fight on our turf here. Who's going to win?
The locals?
Who are the camels, right?
The camels,
because they know how to survive this ecosystem. So what kills me is like, why is so you take the WhatsApp story or these global ideas first. So how are we going to, how do these global ventures come in onto our turf and they beat us using our game? We understand the ecosystem.
Yes.
We know how things work. We understand how challenging it is. We don't have water. We've survived without it. We've created our because we're not able to compete at that level.
Why?
Many, many reasons. So I'd like to education, but I'm going to strip education aside because that's probably the most expensive waste of time that you can imagine through our educational systems, because we've been taught how to sit in a cage in bells and cells. If you've heard the term, so you're sitting in a cell, just like jail, and the bell rings, and then the next sort of
bells
professor
and
comes
cells.
in. Yeah, and
love
then,
it.
And it keeps
I'll
rolling.
tell you, my wife is a principal. I'm sure she'll listen to this. She'll love that because that's her doctoral thesis. Actually, I'll ask her. We'll plagiarize that just so.
And it's been and take that bells and cells and disrupt it completely to take kids and tell them to go solve these major problems, and let that education or mindset start kicking in to say, we're not sitting in a bell or in a cell waiting for that bell, learning outdated material that's coming to us from outside our region. So we're not learning about our local challenges. We're not understanding, this oasis that we're living in. How does it work? What does it need to survive? And we're coming in to get the second or third or fourth or fifth hand. And by fifth hand, curriculums change every 5 or 6 or 7 years sometimes. And if you can imagine just last year, the revolution that took place with AI and how accessible it's become, and all these curriculums are like, oh, what do? We need another 4 years before we revamp our curriculums, right? So the kids are far smarter today than any educator that's out there. And the system is all sort of, it's beyond chaotic. It's a big fat mess, and I that's another story. So chapter 6, we'll talk about.
Chapter 6, we'll come to that. Don't worry, I'll get to that.
Yeah. We'll talk to how to disrupt education, or what's the next journey for education. Right. So if you look at that and you start thinking of how do you raise entrepreneurs that know how to solve problems, and you give them that sort of support that they need with a little bit of. And the support is not education, because they can get it wherever they want to now. It's accessible. The support is, giving them that sandbox. Let them get out there and play, and just give them some support financially to do that.
Yes.
So that's where it is, the brilliant people. That's when you start thinking of, let's go on the world stage and start competing there. In the absence of that, give me a break. How do you expect, a child that's sitting in a very sort of boxy, we talked about a bell, and learning outdated stuff and hope that they're going to become creating the next sort of WhatsApp or whatever it is on a global stage, knowing that they've got to fight with their local regulations, and then they to expand globally, they need to understand the mindset, all sorts of challenges.
So we start from education, because I started by asking you about how do we do that, right? Because there's no shortage of capital. There's no shortage of talent. There's no shortage of policy and support from the governments, especially in the GCC. Let's be very kind of aware of that. And obviously there is a culture of people frustrated from, doing the same thing. They want to do something new. And now I'm sort of venturing into that new world of entrepreneurship, and I can see the amount of energy and ideas that is not challenged, that's not channeled correctly. And most of people that try to channel it are people, you know, they say in Arabic, فقد الشيء لا يعطيه, right? If you don't have it, if you don't possess it, how are you trying to? And then I see all of these people sitting at high towers dictating how people should do their businesses. And you look at them and their hands are so soft. They're not even dabbling in, you know, they're either second, third wealth generation people or someone in, you know, in a government office, or someone has never been actually, I mean, the other day I was sitting with a very successful person. I asked him, oh, how did you get successful? And I'm really intrigued. And he said, oh, I started my first business when I was 23. I'm like, okay. Well, how, can you tell me a little bit more?
It failed.
And obviously they come from a family of, you know, and that's good. I mean, that's not a fault of their own.
My favorite, sorry to build on this. And then the first one failed. And then I got up there and started to do it again. And I did one more and that also failed. And then the next company and that also failed. And then the fifth one worked. And I'm like, with whose money did you do all that?
Exactly.
My daddy's money, basically.
Yeah, that is,
So,
I actually, you know, I know that when I say it's the person, if he's listening, he'll know that. I mean, every time he falls, he goes to his daddy's money. Every time he walks into the
bank.
Exactly. Every time he walks into this office, my office, he comes with the Louis Vuitton, with the, I don't know what, like his net worth as he is probably $1 million. But that's beyond the point. That's not wrong. Let's be very clear. We're not judgmental here, right? It's that. But those people cannot sit on high towers and tell those other people how to do things. They should do it on their own because it's different. I think what I want to get at is, you know, you started with education, which is, I hear you, but now education, I mean, my daughter, she's 16, turning 17. Literally, she knows about investment, capital, VC, PE, all of those. I mean, the other day I had a post about sovereign wealth funds and everything else and SWF. So my wife was like, what's SWF? And my daughter's like, it's sovereign wealth funds. You don't know? And I'm like, how did you know that? Like the first time I heard it, I was probably like 2 years ago.
So you trigger people young and then they start learning on their own and then they start overachieving.
But but my how do I say it? My pickle with this type of idea is, or the kind of exclusiveness of this idea is now we're waiting 20 years. Because the next time my 16-year-old will be able to do it is probably the next 10 years. Well, she'll start and then she'll have the scar tissue and then she'll make it. And I don't think, I mean, it's not about time. Obviously, things has to take time sometimes, but no, we have today. So I think what I want to say is there is an element of maturity. And, you know, I asked you this question, is it the maturity of the founders or maturity of the investors? I personally am biased towards the maturity of, or lack thereof, of the investors, and especially in our line of the world. And let me make my case.
The sandbox. You don't have enough sandboxes.
So let me make my case.
The sandbox brings them all together and let them fight and work it out and still keep going with it. That's what we need.
Let me make my case.
Go ahead.
Basem. Okay. So if I have kids and those kids are young in life and they make a mistake and I sponsor that mistake, whose fault is it? Is it their mistake or my mistake?
Yeah, I think you could have guided them differently, so it could have been most likely your mistake.
Right? So I'm sort of, it's like with more power comes more, you know, bigger responsibility. Now, what do I mean by that?
But how many kids have delivered stuff that their parents would have never been able to dream of, right?
No, I'm talking about guidance. I'm talking about mentorship. I'm talking about discipline. I'll tell you what I mean. So you just mentioned now that investor who can kind of got hit and have bad taste from all of those kind of in his mouth, from all of those kind of people who run away, who kind of failed, who didn't discipline, who kind of, okay, good. Let's say I'm an investor. I'm not yet, but let's say I'm an investor and someone comes to me. I'll scrutinize the guy from how he's going to acquire customers, whether B2B, B2C, B2B2C, B2G, whatever it is that you want to, you know, those acronym soups of kind of the key to the door of their revenues, right?
Yeah.
How are they going to monetize it? And they don't have to give me, I'll tell you what, I'm against pitch decks. Now you can have a couple of
decks are,
crazy. I hate pitch decks because they're
although they start, that's the first level of filtering because a lot of guys come out.
I reject that. I reject that. I think the first level of filtering is just your ability. And to your point, the creative way of approaching the investor. Yes. How are you able to hook me? I mean, now they say the 3-second hook. How are you able to hook me with the first line? That A, relevant to me if I'm an investor. B, actually has substance of thought that can show me. It's like, okay, let me read. let me read it. But the point is, I will get that guy and say, okay, what's your marketing strategy? What's your customer acquisition strategy? What's your talent acquisition strategy? What's your technology strategy? Walk me through it. And it shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. Now, if the guy, obviously, and my wife is an educator, she's a principal, I'm sort of quasi-educator, so I'm trying to kind of venture into that domain. And, I sometimes give, capstone projects and supervise them and everything else. I sit with the guy and say, hey, talk me through it. Now, if and Einstein say it, I think, I don't know if, you can check me on this. If you can't explain it, then you don't understand it. And if you don't understand it 10 times than the person in front of you, then you shouldn't teach it, right? Because you should be able to, if someone is coming to me with an idea, he needs to kind of breathe it. He needs to inhale it. He needs to kind of viscerally understand it.
So in a way, you got to love your problem or love the challenges and love your customers. So you understand everything about them, and then you can come up with all this plan to deliver on their needs.
But me as an investor, I should be able to have the senses, the capacity, the competency to ask the right questions to pick that up. Because guess what? If let's say my daughter, she was, let's say 6 or 7 year old, and she comes to me and I explain to her the, quadratic equation, right? She wouldn't understand it in a million years. But now she explains it to me because she went through an experience level that she's understand. The same thing with an investor. If I'm as an investor, don't understand the dynamics of building a business from the grounds up with everything that comes with it, from how to make money, how your P&L. I'll tell you what, most investors are in the financial domain, like they're VCs, they understand whatever models they build, all of those kind of discounts and whatever. But they don't understand business, like running business.
Very true.
Again, it's an anecdote. We need to do a research on that. But the investors that I've met and the investors that I know I'm ruffling some feathers and I'm going to hot waters, but I mean it because my intention is actual impact. If you don't understand business in a way that actually understands signal from noise, separate the wheat from the chaff, if you're not able to kind of do that qualitatively, not just by going through pitch decks and some...
But see, let me refute all these claims. You're going to hate me now, malish.
I love that. Love everything. That. You got me excited, yeah.
Throw it all down the garbage. So if you've really creating something that's innovative, who the hell's going to understand it anyway? So if I'm solving a remark, if I'm coming to you in 1996 and telling you, listen, there's going to be this platform that I'm going to send a message and then your friends are going to reply to me and then others are going to jump in and then we can have a video call. You're going to say, what are you going on about? Absolutely not. Doesn't even make sense. But the problem, so meaning that in the VC space, it's not about the idea. It's about the person. So if I think you're crazy enough, you've climbed to 10, peaks and you're telling me that, listen, on peak number 11, there's going to be a polar bear that's going to be planting leaves or whatever, or fighting with, creating whatever the circumstances are, I will start saying, you know what? Wow, this guy's done 10 peaks. He must know what the hell is happening at the 11th. I've never been there. I have no idea what's happening there. I've never been outside my air-conditioned car, into my air-conditioned office and, been to Geneva in the summers. So what are we going to even relate to the outdoors world of beyond the peaks? So I think it's a mindset of the person that you're talking to. So if you are a VC investor, you need to understand that I'm throwing away 4% of my capital in a black hole in hopes that Usama is a superstar and I think I'm going to back this guy up. Regardless of what idea comes to me.
What percentage of my decision should be based on that sentiment?
So again, that's why when people know you as a founder...
Can't be 100%. I'm subscribing to you. Listen, you objected and I got stoked because you objected. And I told you we have to kind of...
Yeah, it's got to be a bit of that.
But what percentage of that? Is it 100%?
This should be the way, but it's not happening here.
But is it 100%?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
So what happened? What happened? Look, business is business.
How many people it has happened to me maybe twice in my life, right. But I'm not gonna, where someone said, listen, I want to put money in this. I'm like, I don't want your money. He's like, no, but I want to put money in this. I'm like, yeah, you can just do this or that. So meaning that they, that they're, and that's, by the way, one of the best ways to get money, right? Is to tell people that, hey, I want your advice, but I don't want your money. Like, huh? No, I want to give you my money. That's what people come to me for
It's
my
a
money.
cheat code.
Yeah. So anyway, but you got to use it because it's
sometimes
over.
people use research with me. It's like, I'm just doing this research. Can I ask you a few questions? And I'm like, fine. I know. I don't give them a kind of a. But anyway, yeah.
Yes. So again, and then the other notion of if you don't pivot within 6 months or a year, then your idea is as ridiculous as it was. So if you're sticking to your gun saying, this is gonna solve my problem, and I haven't yet invented or started my solution, and telling people this is where what the solution's gonna look like in a year, and you've already and then you go on the right path, it means that, hey, wait a minute, was I that brilliant that I knew this is gonna be exactly what it is a year from today? 9 out of 10 times when you start going down that very treacherous path, I'll tell you, if you start going on that treacherous path and you're starting to climb that mountain, you don't know what to expect. It is a mountain you're climbing.
But that's a conventional wisdom that I'm happy to challenge.
Yeah, let's.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah, there's probably circumstances on both ways where you say, okay, I see. Again, if you're replicating.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's for example, 1,000 years ago, when someone said that I'll go from Yemen to Syria, they didn't know they'll make it or not. Now it's not even a question. The point that I'm trying to make is with AI today, you can do a simple deep research. I mean, you can do a couple of, literally a weekend of absolutely, obviously you need to have the pro or whatever, but you can do absolutely wonders and actually put your head down, bite the bullet and read all of those kind of verbose kind of outputs from all of those kind of nonsense and kind of read and understand, and you will be able to.
And you still don't have the crystal ball.
You're
done. You don't know what's going to happen.
What I'm trying to say is, it's not as, let's say 5 or 10 years ago. VC game now. I'll tell you what I mean by that. So business is business. At the end of the day, you're building something that will have more income because it's cash flow, right? I mean, CFO's best friend, the CFC, the kind of free cash flow, the FCF. So it's that. So if you, of course, as a founder, you need, and that's gets me to gets me to the founder's maturity, which also I have my own kind of, I'm picking on that a lot, which is please, in addition to your understanding of the code, whatever, you're a medical person, you're an educator, make sure that you have financial literacy or don't even dabble.
Or much more importantly, which is probably the biggest immature position of most startups, fine, get a co-founder that understands this.
You know what? I'm game. I'm down. Yeah. Get someone with you
speaks that language,
is speaking like
and supports you and gets it much better than you being able to learn code and finance.
Maybe that's even a better advice. But just in case you're a lone wolf, you don't know what to have, and you reach a couple of CFOs and they're not willing to kind of dabble into that, whatever. At least understand your financial literacy to a point where you know the basics of the basics. Because it's, revenue minus expense equals profit. Know that. I mean, I'm sure you'll agree with me. I'm super surprised now by how many founders don't even know this formula. It's crazy.
But again, when you talk to immaturity of founders. If I'm coming to somebody and I have all these gaps and I don't have the maturity to have solved these by bringing in a co-founder or strengthening my position or making it sound super attractive, then why would I even have a conversation with this guy?
Exactly.
So team is very important, right?
So that's I mean, that flip side of the story. I know I kind of doubled down on the investors and but also the founders. I also, and I have a friend of mine who every time I meet him is like, Usama, I wish every founder has a CFA. I know it's a stretch. I know it's an extreme. But I get where he's coming from, right? But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is, let's say they have financial literacy. Yeah. Let's say they understand how to build dare I say, DCF, right? So they have this massive kind of gigantic sort of model that models the next, let's say 7 to 10 years, all the way to IPO or M&A.
I'm struggling with this.
I can see the Scottishes. I can see kind of the thing.
It's very painful, but at the same time, if they've got all that knowledge, then how do they know how to go out and sell to a person?
They do. That's an entrepreneur, right? I mean, this is someone who has to be like an octopus, because otherwise you're not an entrepreneur.
There's not many out there. And
I'll tell you what, it's an elitist class, and I get you. It's an elitist class, I get you, but it's a class that you can transfer into.
Yeah, I hear you. But at that level, the chances of them being successful are very high, but the chance of you finding them is very low. And I think my favorite sort of solution or idea to tackle all this is throw them in that boxing ring or that sand trap, let them wrestle it out, bring in these investors that understand the space, let them suggest things, pivot, be ready, bring in, put all these things together. Then that's where the real possibilities can, the chances of and I'm not going to say unicorn, of a camel being born are much higher. That's what I'm trying to say.
But I mean, pragmatically and realistically speaking, and really fundamentally speaking, it will never happen if you don't have the incentive system that we have, which is the taxes and everything else that you mentioned.
That's one of the most important criteria.
If you don't, I'll tell you what, if I'm a massive investor, if I'm a high net worth individual or LP of some sort that have all of it, like you said, and I'm absolutely subscribed to your way of thinking. It's like, I have my asset classes. Why would I just kind of throw my money here, even if it's 5%, whatever, right? Why would I do it? Now gold is all the way up. Now public markets, crypto, whatever it is.
So why would I do it? If I'm running, a chain of schools, then I would give more than 4% or 5% or 10% into the edtech space because I can see it, I understand it, I play with it. I've got the POCs, and that's what I'm trying to say. Go strategic. Look at people that understand the space. And that's where the sand trap comes in. Go to speak, have these conversations with people that understand and appreciate it versus a guy that has a lot of money sitting around and saying, I want to diversify 4% into whatever startups. Because you know where they'd go with that 4%? They'll go to any blue chip, backed fund or VC that's out there and say, they'll do their due diligence much better than ours.
Exactly.
One of the biggest challenges we felt in the region when we brought in a lot of innovative, remarkable technologies that we were backing, and we actually invested in them. And my thesis was that I'll only invest in companies, not that I have a lot of disposable investment money, but with the monies that I the investment that I would do in any startup is the ones that I can add tremendous value to. And my thesis was ripped apart, thrown out of the window when the one company that I did absolutely added barely any value to became,
it's the one that actually succeeded,
is now on the
which is the power curve I was talking about, right? So it's crazy.
But again, if you were in that space where you can add tremendous value to these startups and they start interacting with each other, that's when the real value takes place. And you're not competing. So in that space, in that startup that I did invest in, even though I couldn't add any value to them, I believed in the founders and I loved their idea. I was like, you know what? I think they're onto something, regardless of what that journey is going to look like in a year or two, or their understanding of financials or whatever.
What was that thing that you saw?
So this was a colorectal cancer screening business that I've got absolutely no understanding of. But I did see this problem that could be solved, and how we can go after it. And it was even outside my edtech focus. So again, that's another reason why there was a shot in the dark. But when we spoke to investors to come and co-invest or tag along, and we're looking at bigger money, so it wasn't that we were we were the seed investor. They came back in the region. They're like, find us a lead investor. I'm like, lead investor, really? You want somebody because they don't understand it. They don't understand what are they investing in.
Who said that?
So these are most investors in the region.
They are the ones who said, find us an anchor.
Get us a lead investor. Get us someone that understands this and validates this.
Why?
And then we're going to throw our money into this.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
And I'm like, fine. So we're wasting our time with these types of investors that have the money, but are looking for all those security checks.
But that's a strategic way of thinking, right? I mean, initially you ask for a strategic investor, meaning someone who has his thesis.
Correct.
They have all of these employees that are veterans in that domain that will due diligence the hell out of that business when they put their they anchor the, let's say, valuation.
And how many of these guys are in the region that can solve the colorectal cancer screening through a liquid biopsy? Right. So again,
really? There's not many. I mean, you don't have the governments
a lot of people appreciate it, but couldn't get the depth of how do you solve? What's this algorithm? Really, this algorithm is going to solve that?
Even universities and, no?
Universities don't have the money, right, to invest in the stuff. They'll say, oh, it looks nice.
In our region, yeah.
And all the, so again, that's what I'm trying to say.
Can't they just kind of certify the thing so when you go to a bigger guys
they want the other certification, which is called the FDA stamp. Get us anything that's stamped abroad and then we'll sell it.
Here.
Yeah. Of course, they need that. Again,
they need it?
Yeah.
They need it?
They need it before they throw in their money because that's their mindset.
Is it an insurance policy or is it a requirement?
That's their 4% of the I'm talking about the capital investment.
Yeah.
That's like, before I give you my money, I need all of this stuff to be ticked. And because you're asking, again, the investors, the wrong type of investors here.
Right.
And these are the investors that have, when you're looking at, they've got a lot of wealth. They're really very intelligent about how to invest it. That's why they've made a lot of wealth. Some of it, of course, is luck, and they create their luck, but being in the right place, whatever. Yes. But they've still been very shrewd at doing it, about investing.
Which how it's supposed to be. Yeah.
So I'm saying that there's a lot of money that needs a home, and they would love to give you that money, but you got to be playing in that more strategic place than that 4% space that, just bet on me, because the bets did not go too far.
So this is my thinking process, and this is my philosophy. No betting at all. I mean, I go back to, when most of my friends and close people know that DCF is kind of, they hate it.
Up in the spirit.
But I'll tell you what, we'll talk about it in more details. But the point is, if you layer DCF with a marketing plan, with an operations plan, with the talent acquisition plan, with the technology plan,
then it's not VC anymore.
Okay.
Then you're building a business. Then you're selling. You're selling cupcakes in Dubai Mall.
Brilliant. Okay. Good. Okay. Why do you say that?
Because the unknowns that are coming to you as a startup are enormous.
Yes.
And it starts from getting the.
But you have to base it on assumptions.
You do, but the assumptions are all out the window.
No, but the assumptions are tracking for you to know where to back quickly, because you have a roadmap.
Yeah. I'm a very big believer of that. But in reality,
and by the way, it takes just a month or two to build the entire plan.
I know.
And layer it on top of each other. So that number that kind of gets you those sort of future valuations or future whatever potential that you have is based on, if I, for example, if it's marketing, So one of the things that I do with my clients is I say, do you have a couple of $1,000s? Yeah, who doesn't? Fine. Okay. Can you spend those couple of $1,000s on performance marketing for the next, let's say, 4 to 5 weeks to dial in your audience and just present that idea to them and see, even if it's a video, if people watch the video more than, let's say, 10 seconds, you've got a winner. I actually take that and go to investors and say, hey, you know what? People are listening, at least the words, even if you don't have the idea. That's not impossible.
So there's a lot of different scenarios. Okay, so this will definitely work for some customers, but I'm saying in the VC space, in the VC space generally. So you come and you do this, and you're like, it's not working. Or no, wait, I couldn't find the right marketing agency. Or you know what, the marketing agency's contract needs to be signed in 2 months, or they have a retainer that they want to. Or
here's where you hate me.
Or wait, the actual post goes really viral immediately, and we have to, the first order came in from Africa, right, or from some unknown.
No, we geofence the thing. But here's where you'll hate me, right? I know you'll hate me for this.
But like I'm saying, the rabbit holes start kicking in.
I know, but
and then the whole plan goes through the window. So the reality is what I'm saying with the VC world and the startups is that I wish it were that straightforward, because that would have made everybody's lives a lot easier.
It could. That's where AI come in. Come on, I'll tell you what. We have people that are building literally $1 billion companies, and there are only 3 or 4 people because of AI. I myself, now the amount of work that I'm doing now versus to what I used to do before is infinitely not. I mean, the other day I saw research. They said if you use AI properly, it's at least 40 times, 40x. Your productivity if you do it right. 40x.
So let's make sure this disagreement is founded.
But I agree with you. Let's say.
That's what I'm saying. I agree with you too. So you can't jump in saying, I didn't do any research. So I'm not using any of these tools, and I'm hoping my journey is going to be, But you have to do all of that.
Exactly. As an entrepreneur, as a founder, right? And then the onus is on you.
Yeah. And then all I'm saying is that the minute that's been drafted, and the chances of success are so much higher, you're still going to be jumping into the deep end.
Yes.
Sharks, alligators, worms, leeches, monkeys, people, you name it.
Everything, luck, kind of COVID.
Yeah,
whatever.
Exactly. Timing.
100%.
So we agree.
But exactly. The difference is now the thing that you'll hate me with when you said, and I have to kind of double down on that, when you said, I'll hire agencies. No. Learn marketing. Learn performance marketing. Yeah. I know I said learn finance, learn also marketing, because you're an entrepreneur. Otherwise, if you want to be kind of in your lane, that's where jobs are into. And that's what I see in this part of the world, difference to people from, let's say, other parts of successful, locations. Is that most people, especially the hustlers, the people that come from nothing, over there, you'll find them know exactly what marketing is. I'll tell you what, copywriting. Learn copywriting, learn how to learn content creation.
And my issue with that, and again, I agree But then there's also all these caveats. So I agree that you have to learn everything under the sun as a founder. You have to even learn how to write a contract. You have to, how to speak to AI to develop a contract. You have to, so all that you have to learn. But time is so valuable. And if you're doing it alone, I think learn how to make friends, learn how to get a co-founder first. So I really believe in teams, because you can't, I'm speaking to a founder right now. They've got, and they'll know who they are if they're listening. 6 million clicks on their website. 6 million clicks every month, and they can't monetize their business.
What?
Yeah. And he's like,
I'm sorry. If they can't, they have to ask. And if they ask,
brilliant founders, smarter than me and maybe many other people in this room. Assuming there's all these people,
all these listeners that are here.
Yeah. So extremely intelligent people, but I'm saying that they're not financially driven. It's an impact play. It started off as an impact play, and now they're like, all right, it's so big. How do we make money out of this? How do we survive? How do we sustain?
But that's a good problem to have. They can take that to an investor, and I'm sure investors will be happy to pounce on it and say, you know what, give it to me.
So what was my first advice to this guy?
Right.
Or what is my consistent advice to people like that? Get a co-founder, man.
Right.
Why are you doing this? You've built a remarkable
Why wouldn't
journey.
they?
There's a lot of different reasons. Not ego. I think they haven't found it's like, getting married, but they haven't found their match yet, I guess, to say the least. Because I
hear this ego game a lot.
That's a huge problem around this.
Like, I'm not giving a percentage of my business. It's like, really?
Yeah.
What part of the world are you coming from? It's
and then there's that argument where I've grown so far now that I can hire all the talent.
But it's never the same.
Yeah, that's true. That's the other point. But then incentivize them with ESOPs,
and I know invest. But the point is, it's never the same when it's from the beginning. And but again, to kind of caveat that as well, and make sure that we touch on the nuances between it. The horror stories that I hear from the breakups from all of those founders is just heartbreaking.
And sadly, that's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
And that's, again, my previous life, I was in private equity, and one of the biggest, I still am in private equity, but the biggest challenges of private equity in the region is egos and personalities. In many other countries or other regions, people will hate each other, but they'll continue doing the job and they'll work. Here, no, I don't like
They slaughter themselves and they each other in the boardroom, but then they'll go and have a drink outside. Here, they actually, brothers and sisters from the same family will just never talk to each other for business. And that, I'll tell you what, this comes back to awareness and education, and I want to kind of pivot into
culture.
Culture. Culture is driven by education, right?
Absolutely.
The more aware and educated you are, the more kind of accepting and confident, because I always say that if you're competent, you'll be confident. And if you're competent and confident, you will be less insecure. And therefore, you will have a thicker skin to be able to accept critical thinking, because you'll know that if someone is critiquing your idea, it's the idea that they're critiquing, not your person.
Not your personality.
But if your confidence is not based on competence, then what happens is they attack the only thing that you have, which is
where do you build that confidence in the educational system?
So, in the education system?
You're supposed to be asking me, but I'm asking
I love that. What do you mean by in the education system?
So if you're being raised in this culture and you want to build that confidence, where is it happening in
education?
This whole space?
Critical thinking.
No, I think, yes. But of course, yes. But I'm saying it's not in the schools. It's not in those cells.
No. It's not in the schools.
It's in the school of life. It's in the school without borders, without walls. It's when you're out there on a mountain and you're struggling with the people around you and you're forced to be.
So what's your thesis in the education? Because I'm eager to kind of go into this education and edtech with you.
So chapter 3, education.
Not chapter 6 now.
Not chapter 6. So within education, it's got to be disrupted completely. Bells and cells have to be dismantled. The technology today enables you to do all these mundane tasks. So if you're creating exams or tests or solving or creating lesson plans or doing any administrative work, that's all done by technology.
True.
If I'm following you as a teacher or looking at your results and trying to say, hey, you're not doing a good job, that's all taken by technology. So as a leader or as an educational practitioner, I'm your coach. I'm saying, Usama, you could have done much better on this, or maybe you should need to focus more on this space.
Okay.
But I don't need to address the fact that you are doing well or not, because that's all part of technology. That addresses all that for you.
As an educator to
As an
education leader.
No, as an educational practitioner to a student, right?
To a student.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're my student,
right. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So basically, and they're learners, right? Because
There's
they
the
learn
teaching
for life.
learning dynamic you're talking about.
Yes, that's
right.
where it starts. So the students are the learners are in these classrooms, and not even these classrooms are these without walls, basically. So they're learning on.
What does that mean without walls?
So meaning that you're learning on an expedition to go find the to even tag turtles in Daymaniyat or whatever, right? An island somewhere.
Right.
So you're learning from
Right.
life experiences more so than sitting in a classroom learning, trying to build your confidence.
What about the basic sciences?
So the basic sciences is where technology kicks in.
Right.
So, there's more digital personalized learning journeys through avatars and through through technology that can do far better jobs than teachers today.
Okay.
And not only that, they're far more empathetic than teachers, which is what kills me. Yeah, and you're not just saying, technology is better than a teacher. You're also saying they're empathetic. They give me far more love than these damn teachers
and
or whatever.
encouragement,
Because, and then it's almost so personalized, right? So you're going down that route where, I don't get it. Say it again. All right, let's say it again. In a different way. Just say it again. Then do it now relate this story to me or this theory using basketball. How can I learn through that? So it's so personalized that it enables students to get so much more information out of a teacher.
But can you depend on a student to actually go through that path independently?
But then that's when you've got your dashboard that at the end of the day tells the coach, they say, listen, Habibi, you have absolutely no idea of what you've been learning. You've been watching these avatars speak to you and you haven't had the interaction. You've got no results on your, in your various tasks that you needed to achieve. Your project looks horrible. Your drawing is nasty or whatever. You need to work on these things. And let me show you how and let me work with you. That's where the educator kicks in. So the educator today is not a person that sits in front of class and says, oh, everybody, we're learning today about algebra. No, the students already might never need algebra in their entire lives, right? How many times have you solved an integration?
Not everyone.
You're an engineer, right? So you've probably gone through these half or 2 pages to solve the second or third integral of مش عارف how many X's and Y's and Z's in one formula. And
it depends on, obviously this is an opening to if you want to go to, I don't know, thermodynamics or architecture
but by the time you get there to need that, you can learn it then if it has evolved in a million ways.
Obviously I'm not an educator in the traditional sense, but I would argue that
your wife's going to hate me.
Well, I'll tell you what, she will love what you're saying simply because she actually advocates for everything you're mentioning as a leader, as a kind of researcher, but also as a principal. So, but what I'm trying to say here is, as human being, and I'll tell you this because of my personal experience and because of the experiences of the people around me as a coach, right? We as human beings are organic creatures in every sense of the way, right? In the sense of our learning, I'm saying. So. Yeah. There's always the idea of having that concept that you never got, but then 3-4 years down the line, all of a sudden you know it like the back of your hand, and you're like, how did I not know it? Although it was clear in front of me, because of for example, I remember the very first time I sat in my classroom when I doing my doctoral degree, right? And it was 2015, 2016, and the professor. He walked in the very first time and I'm stoked. I'm like, you know what? I'm a big boy now, and he walked in and was like, just take it easy. It's a complete rewiring of the brain. It's not traditional kind of way of learning. It's research and and I never understood it. Never. And then we talked the epistemology and then ontology and then I don't know the methodology and all of and the isms. Oh God, the isms. And then I remember the first time our philosophy professor walked in and he just kind of was this Greek guy. He was like walked in.
There seems like there's a belly there.
Like there was like he's a it's like hair and everything is like he's Aristotle walking in, and he wrote knowledge on the big it was a kind of chalkboard, right? So knowledge.
Now you're dating
and
yourself.
He put it well, you know how it's an old school in the UK, and I looked at him and he looked at us and he's like, what is this? Like knowledge? It's like, okay. And that's the first thing he talked to us, like, what is knowledge? And then everybody's like, oh, knowledge is this, knowledge is that. Like, no. Knowledge is justified true belief. That's it. That's all you need to know. And he spent probably, I would say, an entire semester just teaching us that. Now, what I'm trying to say is, I never got it. I actually never did, right? And of course, scale on that, everything else beyond that, because that's the tip of the iceberg, but then everything beyond that. Now I get it. And no matter how much, and my wife, and sorry to interrupt you, but
no, I'm
I remember how I spent sleepless nights going through all the books and reading. And if you look at my books, it's all underlined and kind of highlight and doing the kind of, writing the questions on the side to kind of understand. Never got it.
So that's why this doesn't work. Education must be dismantled the way we've learned. And I finished my executive MBA. I was so proud of myself. Khalas, I'm on top of the world, good school, very happy with my achievement. The next day, WhatsApp kicks in, So next day there's the WhatsApp groups, WhatsApp messaging. I graduated with full confidence, not knowing that there's a monster that's just being born. And I'm saying WhatsApp as an example of a platform. With it afterwards.
Now you dated yourself.
Exactly. And then straight after that, you get digital media, social media. All our marketing strategies had no digital media in them.
And market communication.
None of that,
yes.
right? Blockchain, Bitcoin, and the evolution is endless, right? So this must be dismantled. Today we have to unlearn all these old technologies or ways of learning to start thinking about how do we acquire knowledge when we need it in the depth that we need it.
But my point is, and I think we started talking about the kind of foundational sciences.
But you don't need it anymore. That's what I'm saying. Yani, why would I today look at thermodynamics and the depth?
That's a strong statement.
Yeah, because the day that I need that information,
not everybody needs it.
Well, I mean, of course.
Most people, I mean, if you're destined to be a
No, but they don't need all this box today. And when you're in school,
the classrooms, you mean?
Yeah, these classrooms, and you don't need this, you don't need this quality of box. So
but
today, if I'm learning thermodynamics today, and I know that I might need it, or I might become a superstar or whiz in developing, heat combustion engines or something in 10 years or 5 years, this is obsolete already. So when I get there,
how would you know? No, I mean, physics is physics, right? I mean, principles and principles.
I mean, but you're learning the basics and the foundations in a very entrepreneurial way, in a very dynamic way.
I get you, but how would you know? I mean, we just talked about entrepreneurs and how you start something, then there's no way in 12 months you'll be working on the same thing.
Exactly.
Let alone education. You can't say that in, let's say, and that's why you have to cover most of your bases, not all bases, but most of your bases. So in 10 years' time, because you need that time.
I will inspire you to go after a project to develop a thermal combustion engine and think about what that journey looks like and start learning things that are relevant for it in an educational space today, rather than teaching you the foundations of thermodynamics. As generally it might be, you'll use that here or there. I know we've been focusing on thermo because that my professor in thermodynamics was the worst guy ever. And I'm like, what a waste of time. And let's
talk about energy, power, right?
Power generally, yeah.
Power generally,
but so the and this is.
So what's the alternative? I mean, what's the alternative? The replacement, because now there's a vacuum. You remove all of that. What do you fill it with?
It's not complete vacuum. So you're still learning foundations and basics of
math and
physics and sciences and STEM and English and how to. My favorite anecdote was that the only reason why I'm lucky that I learned how to get my grammar in place is to write an email to my investors or the people that did not invest in me with full grammatical error, telling them to F the hell off, and you missed out, or that's when I needed my grammar. Apart from that, what the heck, I can still speak like everybody else. Whatever. Meaning that I believe that education today has this fundamental a classroom that's already available for everybody. So I'm not going to reinvent anything today, but I need to learn it when I need to learn it. That's the first unlearning that I need to do, is that I'm not learning everything for the sake of, let me store some information about, M1 V1 equals M2 V2, whatever, right? So when I need that, because I already would know what M2 V2 would look like today. But if I fast forward 10 years and I need to know what M1 V1 looks like, there's probably a million ways that can bring this to reality maybe it'll go into quantum physics before we even look at the foundation of that.
So there are two elements to this disruption of education, right? There's the kind of readiness from an infrastructure perspective. What I say by that is the technology, the methods, the processes, the assessment, dare I say, the kind of grades and all of that elements to it, to allow people at the next level to discern who deserves and who doesn't deserve places. Because as you go up, there are certain levels of, there's scarcity there. But also there's the societal element, which is how people behave. The famous story of Google Glass, it was ahead of its time. Now everybody's kind of wearing these smart glasses. So, these are the two things. So how do we dabble with, let's say the first one, how ready are we here?
So the first one, there's a lot of systems that can support this, but I think it's the society that needs to dictate it. Not even society. I think it's the mindset of the, and again, we're talking about entrepreneurship. We're talking about people that have ambition to solve major problems, right? Or great problems, or do something phenomenal with their lives. If we go back to the first chapter one, where we're really trying to do something remarkable with our lives. So we have to do something that's not conventional. So you can't be conventionally sitting in a box hoping for that. So you have to.
There'll always be an outlier, right?
Be supported as a parent or as a head of whatever institution, family, company, government, whatever it might be, to say, let's jump into this deep end. Let's give these kids, and we're kids as well.
How would we identify them?
And we're kids as well.
Right.
So let's give these people, these learners, an opportunity to break out of their walls and let them learn things on the job and off the job, in the class and out of the class, with the people that they're learning, using technology, which is already out there. The platforms are all out there. Let's access these.
Is it ready?
It's all out there. Go to talk to any of these guys and tell them, hey, give me a crash course on physics and make it sound like it's really attractive or sexy.
But it's
not do that.
But it's not deterministic yet. Is it ready?
It's ready. Yes. You've got all these LLMs now that have captured all this stuff, and it's all in place. So you go out and you get the knowledge, and then this is my best part, and then you've got access to that knowledge, which frees up your time. So you're not doing mundane homeworks for 3 hours in the afternoon to become ahead of the game and to become smarter than every other child.
Because it's not a race anymore.
It's not a race. The race is with yourself, and then you get out there and exercise or do the things that you love to do, that you are so passionate about.
How do you solve?
Get your drama into place. Get your long distance running. Get your tennis. Get your coding.
Okay, so we're talking about, let's say, 16, 17, 18-year-olds. How do you solve for discipline?
There's this
distraction.
Excellent question. So I think discipline is a focus, is a function of how exciting the damn class is. If you're sitting in a most boring topic in the world.
No, but I mean, if you get them into the wild.
Yeah, so that's
how
precisely
do you
it. So if they're passionate or not passionate, if they see, so one of the startups that we looked at, it's educational / whatever, and it's basically, you start clicking on going, and TikTok does this, right? If you're on TikTok, you like a post, it continues driving you in that direction.
Okay.
So
I'm not on TikTok, so I wouldn't know. But social media, generally speaking, is like that. Yeah, so if you like one thing on, let's say, YouTube, and then all of a sudden,
and then you find this. How did I end up here? Right. Well, you ended up there because that was your trait. Mind you, it derails you if they want to, and that's where the hidden hand of whatever
algorithms,
the underground system that works in controlling the media,
controlling
that we acquire,
the herds, yeah,
exactly. So, but if it's your journey and you start going, and that's what these things are doing today. So, if you're answering an interest in wildlife, and then it's part of a humanities class, then naturally your journey is going to progress in that direction, and there's also a learning in that space. And it doesn't have to be, here's the equation of how this works, or here's the depth of it, because that's all there. And it could be in videos, it could be in action items, could be in projects, it could be in so many different ways to acquire knowledge these days. And it could be get out and speak to the Wildlife Society and go speak to whatever, right? So there's so much that needs to happen outside the classroom, and not, that's my favorite bit, not in the ancient, like 300-year-old or whatever, 1,000-year-old system where everybody sits there.
No, but
and
how
we're
do you
all
control?
teaching
My
you
question is still
thing.
the same.
Yeah.
How do you control for discipline and distraction? Because
So if it's
you leave
exciting for them, and if they believe in it, and they know there's going to be an outcome at the end of it, so you have to go down that journey. And whatever way they do, they go this way or that way. But
so if I give a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old M&Ms and broccoli, which one do you think they will go for?
Oh, put the M&Ms much further. Technology can do that. Put them on a shelf.
But you're leaving them on their own, right? They're not on a guardrail anymore.
But that's what technology, you can do that now. There are these guys, they are these,
but
they call them individualized learning plans.
But they're not under your supervisor. I mean, now it's reactive more than it's proactive.
You get this scaffolding done in the system. So the system is scaffolded. So here are the M&Ms. That's where we want to get after. Let's eat the broccolis and collect them and farm them and tear them apart and stick them on walls and then stack them on top of each other until we get to the M&Ms.
How much effort is there from the ecosystem to actually do that, and it'll become a cat and mouse thing, and it's just
technology does that, sadly.
So okay, what's stopping us?
It's again we always go to the head of the fish, and if the fish thinks at the head, no, I'm just saying if the journey is not there from the parents' side or from whoever's on top, then that's where this is all dismantled. So I tell my kids, sadly, that they're not, anything they're doing at school is a waste of their time, and they have to really acquire the knowledge and skills outside school.
But how would they know? They've been an adult or kids or alive for a couple of seconds. So how would they know?
So you're again guiding them and supporting them. And then again, if you've got the right sort of, if you've got the park, you've got the neighborhood, you've got the sports, you've got their, if you've got their ecosystem in place, then they start learning from the ecosystem, and they're not learning only from one specific area. The part that kills me is the typical Arab parent that says, المدرسة لازم تعلمهم. The school should teach them, right? And what are you doing then? You know?
But I completely subscribe to everything you mentioned now, but there's lots of F's there.
Tons, of course. But that's you want to create another Estonia? You want to do something phenomenal? You want to go out of you have to think like that, right? And there's a lot of ambition, a lot of dreaming as well. I'm a bit of a dreamer, as you can see. I talk to my bugs on my plants every morning. Like, what are you doing with your life, yeah, bug? Go get away from my freaking
Get away
plant.
from my plant. You know what? Here's another plant. Here's my neighbor's plant.
Exactly.
What's the most exciting thing you're working on right now?
I don't know. I think that's chapter 6 now.
That's chapter 7.
7. Okay, so in this chapter, we're talking about, I hate this, I shouldn't be talking about it, but it's just to inspire people. It's when you're doing things and you're not looking for a return. Okay. So that gets a bit painful in a sense that, I'm dedicating my time and effort as a fortunate leader or an entrepreneur or a CEO or whatever the hell I label myself as, to the level of efficiency and the level of expertise that I ever acquired in my life. Let's apply this to the underprivileged communities, or let's see how much value can we really extract out of this. 2 areas that you're very passionate about here. Use your passion here, where you think that you can really change things because you've learned a lot. And we do that in our professional lives. We are so expert at doing so many things. We've got our timelines in place. We've got our KPIs. We've got our journeys. We've got a strategy laid out. But then if we're doing something else, it doesn't have that sort of structure. So you're like, but I'm, doing this, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
So that's an area that I've kind of, fallen in love with, for whatever lack of other words. And it's so, it just touches a person's heart when you see, people that, you're interacting with a lovely environment. You're talking to people that are so passionate about, making a difference. And it's not a financial difference. Yeah. That conflicts a lot with the entrepreneurial world. But then where I bring that in, where I bring some of the skills into, it's got to be sustainable. So you have to find a way to make it sustainable. And that's what I keep digging and playing with. So I've got these very exciting projects that I'm involved with on 2 sort of levels. One sort of is a spillover from my day job, whatever that is, which is basically on the educational front, so that there's a lot of technology that is fascinating to utilize because it crosses borders. So you're not looking in that box anymore, and that cells and bells that you're involved with. And then you go and take that across to the deep, dark universe that we live in. So you can cross that in and allow people to benefit when they have absolutely no privileges. But then all of a sudden you're leveling the playing field.
Yeah.
They can also learn coding, and so can a
And
very wealthy
education,
child.
yeah.
So that's the crossover. So that's on one front. And then the other front is back to my roots. I'm Palestinian, and I feel that there's a lot of need for people to really, dedicate their time and effort to help other Palestinians around the world.
Yeah.
And I think that is a complete different realization. So I feel that there's so much value that can be incorporated and beyond whatever limitations that we have within our lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If I ask 10 people that know you, let's say more than 10 or 20 years about you, what would they say in common?
Yeah, any crazy, psychotic, incoherent. I've been labeled ADHD and I'm still fighting with that. Is it or is it not?
You're ADHDing about the ADHD.
ADHDing. I don't want the label. I've got the label. I don't care. I've got more. I think it's sad because it's happiness, and it's sick happiness, Like I'm so happy with whatever I have. It's partly grateful, but I'm content and appreciative of what I have, that it actually becomes sickening. Oh, really? You lost your arm? Oh my God, but you've got another one. That's amazing. Whatever. I was talking to my friend and we're talking about chronic diseases, and something came up with like Bosniak cysts, it's like, oh, their kidney, whatever. Good. The best thing about having, being, diagnosed with something as serious as that is that you've got two of them. It's not just one. So if one doesn't work, then you've got the other one.
You're a
and
half cup full guy, right?
It's disgusting sometimes. So I struggle with people around me, especially if they're in situations that they're not happy, and it's
I can see that you're
happy.
very pragmatic, you're very realist, you're very sort of, I would say borderline, extremely rationalist.
There's a lot of that, yeah. And I guess my biggest driver for all that, and that's where I love the journey of entrepreneurship, whatever that looks like. But what I love about it is because you have infinite seconds on this planet. Right. So where you can put your time and effort, and it doesn't have to be, you're not racing to make millions, you're not trying to solve the world. You can also be focused on what you're trying to achieve on a daily basis, on a minute by minute basis. So you're having these valuable conversations, you're trying to impact lives. That's, it doesn't have to be like, that you're solving a tech-enabled challenge that, some farmers have in some countries, So there could be some essence to the time and utilization of time. So my friends hate me for that. They're like, God, yeah, okay, khalasna, we've talked about fun stuff, whatever, why do you keep bringing us to, let's do something valuable with our lives?
Right.
Like, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of my DNA now.
Oh,
it's
goodness
my DNA.
me. You're as if I'm looking in the mirror. So
Yeah,
what do you see yourself in 5 years?
I usually ask people that question, but I think, fortunately, I've created my strategy a long time ago, maybe over 10 years, and it's been and you re-strategize every year. But so I'm on the right path, and so if I continue doing everything that I'm doing today, and if it's going in the direction that it's happening, I'm extremely happy. I'm satisfied today with where I'm at.
You're very cryptic. Why?
Man, I don't know.
Give me something. Give me dirt.
so maybe I've split my life. I'll say this for my friends will hate me again. So I've split my lives into thirds, right? So I've got a third where I'm professionally trying to make money. And this is, again, assuming that you're eating and you're taking care of your family and you're spending quality time with everything that's meaningful. But just on a professional note, this is. So I've split my lives in third. A third is where you make money, try to make money. And a third is where you go after your passion play. So I've got my nature loving, And the last third is where I think philanthropy is important. You give back, you support, you do whatever you can. And so every single day matters. And every single day or week or month that passes, I'm fulfilling all my ambition. I'm not waiting for a summer vacation in July to get out and do whatever my passion plays are. I'm actually living it today. I'm not waiting to give back because I'm doing it today. I'm not trying to make money, just within my working life. I'm doing it across. So everything's muddled, not muddled. It's carefully orchestrated to create this valuable proposition that makes me content with where I'm at today.
Yeah, it makes you sleep and not wake up at 2 a.m. anxious. And
that there's tons of that, of course. But
really?
That's partly because I want to, hey, I've got this other, ambition. Even that sort of goes back into which bucket am I talking about, if it's within making money or if it's sustainable. But it just has to come back within the framework, because I unfortunately don't have, this sounds really bad, but bandwidth is very important. If you don't have enough time to do stuff, then you have to be very selective with your time.
Of course.
A lot of this is, if you don't have enough bandwidth to take on additional projects that you can't be, contributing valuably to, then,
it's a skill and competence on its own, which is the kind of the ability to consciously and deliberately, how do I say it, prioritize everything that you do. Because it's not about having time or not, right? It's about being able to prioritize and deprioritize consciously and not being driven by whatever circumstances happening to you during your life, right?
Correct.
Basem,
so beautifully.
I loved our discussion. This is for a first time that we meet, and yeah, this is rarely that happens, but I knew this would happen. So how do you like your Maqluba?
So Maqluba is the most innovative Palestinian present to humanity, where it was developed by our grandmothers in a kitchen. So take the source as a start. So these are, people that have said, we're not just going to do a regular dish. We're going to throw in some rice with some cauliflower or bitinjan or eggplant or potatoes, and and then the meat. And it could be chicken, it could be meat, and then and it could be and then once that innovation is all put into one incredible,
literally just one pot, right?
And then once it's all put together with all these ingredients, and then of course النفس تبع الحاجات, and then you flip it on its head. So just freaking
and you slide it up, and it's just this. My daughter calls it the rice cake.
The rice cake, right there. Yeah,
it's just over there, it's sitting. Everybody's waiting for it to be broken down, and then you just feast on it. We'll have our Maqluba very, very soon.
Oh, inshallah, we have
inshallah.
To. Definitely.
Thank you very much, Basem, for your time.
Thank you, Usama, for this lovely conversation and this great sort of setting for it.
Thank you.
God bless.